Hi, it's Helen Tarrant. Welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. You're here with Helen Tarrant, and obviously, let's talk office space. So I'm here in my home office, and of course, some of you are also watching this video in your home office, and you're wondering whether office space is ever going to be the same again, going into 2021 and into the future, and that perhaps some of you have even invested in some office spaces in the past and wondering what is the outcome in the next few years. So I want to address this and talk about office spaces. Now, office spaces traditionally in metro areas, when we're talking about key areas in Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, have all performed really well. Rents have continued to go up right until COVID hit last year, and now we have a downward pressure on rent. Now, a couple of things have happened is that there's downward pressure on rent because people can't go and work in the office space, so they've asked for rent relief in the time where we had to work from home. But now a few people going back to the office, but obviously the space ratio has to have changed. So a lot of office spaces, if they are community driven, or they're from government subsidized NGOs, or they're community driven type of property tenants, then what you'll have is that they're actually needing to expand to a larger premise when they're doing training, as well as sort of staff meetings and everything else, because they can no longer be in the same confined space, meaning that your neighbor can't sit next to you. Now, if you work in a law firm or an accounting firm or financial services or anything else where you are literally back to back with someone, you'll find that space now you'll end up having a bigger cubicle, a bigger space. So that's good as well. There's probably going to be an expansion of between anywhere from 10 to 20% of your workspace due to COVID and just due to just the new way of us operating in an office space. Now, one of the other things that also comes through from this is also that now there's potentially staggered work times and staggered work forces, which means that some people may start late, finish late, some people may start early, finish early, some people may go into the office 2 days a week, and other people might rotate and hot desk through. So there's some of the changes that's going to happen to office space in the upcoming years to come. Now, because of that, the capacity of someone who normally would have, say, 100 people in the office or even 10 people in the office may now be diminished. They may actually need overall 20-30% less space. So you'll find that smaller office spaces or larger office spaces that have been cut up into smaller spaces are going to be more in demand in the next few years. And then also because now that office spaces is not so popular and we're now experiencing more vacancies in the market, there is a downward pressure on rent. So in the next 2 years, you probably will experience another 20 to 30% reduction in the rent of office spaces. So if you're looking at renting office spaces, this is actually not a bad time. It's actually a really great time renting office spaces, because instead of $600 a square meter as you would get in Sydney CBD today, you can probably get the same office for $400 a square meter, which is phenomenal if you look at that. And if you secured a lease for the next 3 years, you're pretty much going to have pretty stagnant rent. So that's going to be good news for employers or startups or people getting into that space. The other thing is also about amenities, creativity, and about what your space allows you to do. So now we're not going to be traditionally confined to the boardrooms. So areas where you've got open plan meeting spaces are going to become more popular, so office configuration will most likely change. So that means that office spaces that allow for workstations plus an open area where people can meet, where it's not confined, where you can have 5 people having a meeting where they don't feel like they're confined in a box, is going to become more popular, which means that a lot of the office spaces that are traditionally out there in the metro areas are going to have to change as well. And at the same time, what we are also going to experience is that office spaces in regional areas and also in areas outskirts in suburbia, so outskirts of Sydney and CBDs, are going to become more popular. So people are going to prefer a smaller office space, or even just an office space or setup of their business outside of the CBD, because there's no longer a need to go into CBD, because there's still going to be a significant amount of meetings conducted on Zoom or go to meetings or any of the new platforms that's coming through for people to allow them to meet. And that goes with both, professional services, even children's services, like speech pathology, chiro and things like that, allied health services, along with your professional accounting and legal services as well, because a lot of that can be conducted over the phone or over Zoom meetings. So you'll find that is going to come through a lot. A lot of people won't be so keen to get back to face-to-face meetings, so that's just going to be a norm in the years to come. So if you are investing in this space, what should you be looking for? Well, what you should look for, number one, is the amenities. What can your space do and what can it offer? So does the place you're buying into offer shower, bathroom, kitchen facilities, firstly, just as a general floor, doesn't have to be individual to you, but also does it offer other areas? So does it have a barbecue area? Does it have an open plan area? Does it have an area in the foyer? Or does it have like a general lounge area where you can be meeting up with people apart from your office space? So, or are you going to want to buy a property with an office space that's large enough to allow your tenants to be able to set up that open space flow in that premise? And what is that going to mean to your tenant, and are they going to pay that rent? That's the number one thing. Look at that. Look at the flexibility of that. Secondly, it's also about access. So can you get access to some of these properties after hours? Because as the workforce changes and we have staggered workforces and rotating workforces, what you might find is some people are going to work past 6 p.m. Some people are going to start maybe before 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. So does where it's located, your location buying allows for almost 24/7 access so that your tenant can stagger their workforce and a hot desk and do all of those things as well. Thirdly, parking is going to become important, and being in a area where it's in a transport hub so your tenant can get their clients and also their staff can get to there relatively easily is important. So does it come with parking? Is there bus stops or is there train stops nearby where people can just easily access your property? And also, is it easy for your for clients to visit as well? So there's got that as well. The other thing becomes then from there, the flow on is your rate per square meter. So if you're looking at investing in office space, this has actually never been a better time to invest in office space, because now you can actually buy stress stock and stock at a much cheaper rate than you would 2-3 years down the track. But you do have to hold that property for at least 3 years to be able to gain any kind of capital gains in this market, because you need the market to stabilize in terms of rent, and you need upward pressure on rent. So you need the vacancies that's going to be in the market to be absorbed in the next 2 to 3 years before you start to reap the benefit of capital growth. But capital growth will kick back in, especially if you invest in key areas. It's just it won't kick in the next 6 or 9 months, but it will be a 3-year process. So those are the things to look for. And then finally, one of the big things to look for is also what is around that area. So people are now chasing more environment than anything else. So open windows, or windows to a view, or windows to even the streets, the configuration of a very well-designed layout, the access to a cafe downstairs where they can have meetings rather than meetings in the office, access to areas where they can walk to, areas where they can easily have access to lunch and food. That's all become a little bit more important because we've been taken out of the community, and now we've almost trying to socialize back into the community. So these things have become a little bit more important because people are just now a little bit more aware of the work-life balance. And so when you have a new office space and you're investing into it as an investor, you got to consider now additional elements and what your tenant is looking for. And they're looking for a new way of working. They're looking at a new way of interacting, and they're looking at a new way of being to make their business profitable, having their staff partially in-house and partially working from home, and how they can achieve that through constructing a layout in the office space that works, having enough space for everybody, and also make sure that it's functional and efficient. So when you're looking at office space, do take those things in consideration, but I think that it's never been a good time to invest in office space now for the next 12 months, especially if you're looking at holding it out in the long term. It's a long-term game where you're going to get capital growth in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm hopeful that's been helpful to you today. If you want to find out more, if you want me to assess the office space opportunity you're looking at, remember, reach out to me at helentarrant.com, and or leave a comment below, or email me at Helen@Commercial Property Cashflow. In the meantime, I look forward to helping you in your journey and giving you a great kickstart to 2021. Bye for now.